She spent years warning the public about drunk driving. She stood beside police cruisers in official safety campaigns. She explained investigations to reporters. She represented professionalism, discipline, and trust inside the Washington State Patrol. But on the night of March 1st, 2025, Sarah Clayson became the exact type of person she once warned the public about. And what happened after the crash would force people across Washington to ask a terrifying question. What happens when the people trusted to enforce the law are the very ones accused of breaking it? Because this case was never just about alcohol, it became a story about privilege, protection, and the invisible power that can exist behind a police badge. At first glance, Sarah Clayson looked like the last person anyone would expect to face a DUI vehicular homicide charge. She was not a reckless teenager, not a repeat criminal, not someone unfamiliar with law enforcement. She was law enforcement. For 14 years, Clayson worked inside the Washington State Patrol. And more importantly, she served as a public information officer, a public face for the agency itself. That detail matters more than people realize. A PIO is trained to speak carefully, to control narratives, to remain calm under pressure, to understand how investigations work from the inside. Which means Sarah Clayson likely knew more about DUI investigations than most ordinary citizens ever will. She knew what officers look for. She knew how evidence is collected. She knew how field sobriety tests work. And according to prosecutors, she may have used that knowledge to her advantage after the crash. But long before Highway 240 became a crime scene, investigators say another story had already been unfolding behind closed doors. That story centered around a place called Moon Palace. Moon Palace did not resemble a normal neighborhood restaurant. Investigators later described it as secretive and unusual. The front entrance stayed locked. Customers often entered through the side door. The business operated mostly in cash. One officer even admitted he believed the building had been abandoned for years. But Sarah Clayson and her husband knew the place very well. Surveillance footage showed the couple arriving there on the afternoon of March 1st. They stayed nearly 4 hours before Sarah eventually got behind the wheel of her SUV. And investigators soon discovered this was not a one-time visit. During a search of the business, police recovered dozens of handwritten tabs connected to Sarah and her husband from previous months. The records allegedly showed a pattern. 3 to 5 visits every week, 4 to 6 strong drinks per visit, week after week, month after month. That discovery changed the public narrative surrounding the case. The defense wanted people to see Sarah as a respected officer who made one tragic mistake. But investigators began seeing something different, a dangerous habit hidden behind a trusted image. Then came the detail that shocked even experienced detectives. The receipt from the exact night of the crash had vanished. Not the receipts from February, not the receipts from January. Only March 1st was missing. When investigators arrived with a search warrant, the bar manager reportedly became defensive and uncooperative. Body camera footage captured tense exchanges between officers and staff while detectives searched for missing records. To prosecutors, the disappearance of that receipt did not feel random. It looked like someone may have been trying to protect Sarah Clayson. And if true, that possibility transformed the case from a DUI investigation into something far more disturbing, a potential culture of protection surrounding one of their own. Hours later, that protection would collide violently with reality on Highway 240. 20-year-old Jose Vega Sanchez had just finished work earlier that day. Family members described him as hardworking, respectful, and full of future plans. He was still learning how to ride his motorcycle. He had dreams of building a better life, but he never made it home. Around 7:30 that evening, Sarah Clayson attempted a left turn across oncoming traffic. Her SUV slammed directly into Jose's motorcycle. The collision was catastrophic. Jose was thrown across the roadway while his motorcycle became trapped underneath Sarah's vehicle. Witnesses rushed toward the scene. CPR began almost immediately. And then came one of the most disturbing allegations in the entire case. According to witness statements, Sarah's SUV appeared to restart and move slightly forward after the collision. Investigators believe she may have attempted to drive away, but the vehicle could not move because Jose's motorcycle was physically wedged underneath the SUV. That detail changed everything. Because a bad judgment call is one thing. Trying to leave the scene of a fatal collision is something very different. Prosecutors later argued the attempted movement suggested consciousness of guilt. In other words, they believed Sarah already knew she was intoxicated. And perhaps even more disturbing than the allegation itself was her demeanor afterward. Body camera footage showed Sarah speaking calmly with responding officers. At times, the interaction sounded less like a criminal investigation and more like colleagues speaking to another officer. She understood the process, and according to investigators, she knew exactly how to use it. When officers asked Sarah to perform field sobriety tests, she refused. When they requested a preliminary breath test, she refused again. Not emotionally, not aggressively, carefully, strategically. At one point, Sarah reportedly told officers, "I know how this process goes." To prosecutors, that statement sounded less like confusion and more like calculation. Every minute mattered, because every minute gave alcohol more time to leave her bloodstream. Still, investigators quickly noticed warning signs. Her eyes appeared glossy. Officers smelled alcohol. She misspelled the word sign as sigh. She incorrectly estimated critical distances at the crash scene. Individually, they may have seemed minor. Together, they painted a very different picture. Eventually, investigators obtained a warrant for a blood draw. But by then, 6 hours had already passed since the crash. And even after 6 hours, Sarah Clayson's blood alcohol concentration measured 0.17%, more than twice the legal limit. That number horrified the public, because toxicology experts understood what it implied. If her BAC was still 0.17 6 hours later, then at the moment of impact, it may have been close to, or even above, 0.20%. At that level, judgment becomes severely impaired. Reaction time slows dramatically. Decision-making collapses. Suddenly, the defense argument about a simple driving mistake became much harder to believe. This no longer looked like a momentary lapse in judgment. It looked like the predictable result of extreme intoxication. But for many observers, the most controversial part of the story was not what happened before the crash. It was what happened afterward. Months passed before formal charges were filed. Jose's family said communication from prosecutors was minimal. Public frustration continued growing. Meanwhile, Sarah Clayson remained free. She was released without bail. She was allowed to travel freely. She was not required to wear alcohol monitoring equipment. And according to reports, she continued receiving a salary exceeding $133,000 per year while on administrative leave. To critics, it looked like two justice systems operating side by side, one for ordinary citizens and another for people protected by the thin blue line. That perception fueled outrage far beyond Washington state, because this case exposed a painful contradiction inside modern policing. What happens when the very people trusted to uphold accountability are accused of avoiding it themselves? What happens when professional experience inside the justice system becomes a shield instead of a responsibility? And perhaps the most uncomfortable question of all, if a police badge can delay suspicion, soften treatment, and buy valuable time after a deadly DUI crash, can it also delay justice itself? Jose Vega Sanchez lost his future on Highway 240. His family lost a son, a brother, a young man who never got the chance to finish becoming who he wanted to be. And now one question continues hanging over this entire case like a shadow. If Sarah Clayson had not worn the invisible protection of a badge behind her name, would the system have treated her the same way?